Last fall, I was waiting for the perfect time to harvest sweet potatoes, and I was watching other successful growers from Georgia up to Michigan give in their reports as their harvests were coming in. And it didn't look good. Some of them didn't even have a harvest. Others only had sweet potatoes that were only fit for the animals. There was one or two exceptions that did okay. I got a sweet potato harvest, but quite honestly, I only got about half of what I was hoping for. Now, there was a lot of explanations about why that happened, but I wasn't so sure about those reasons. So I did some research. So I want to share what I've learned with you, and I'm also going to draw on almost 3 decades of gardening experience. And maybe this year we'll all have a better sweet potato harvest. Hi, I'm Debbie. Welcome to my organic garden.
All I have needs, I have not provided.
One of the hardest things to detect is the balance of fertilizer. I cringed when I heard different growers explaining their soil was just too rich, and sweet potatoes don't need a really rich soil. I really think it's not that the soil was too fertile, it's that the soil was out of balance for that specific crop. So that's what I'm going to explain. And since it's a little tricky to explain, I'm going to draw it out. So come on over here, look over my shoulder, and I'm going to attempt to explain what I mean. So let me start by drawing a plant. Your typical garden plant's going to look something like this with leaves, and maybe even have some tassels on top. Okay, so we've got some leaves going on here. So we'll set that aside, and let's add fruit. Let's think of tomatoes. Maybe you've got a pepper. Maybe you've got green beans. So for the sake of this video, it is a vegetable. We're going to hang some red green beans here. And then lastly, you've got some roots. Now in the case of sweet potatoes, you've got a vine. Okay? So let's draw a vine. You've got leaves growing on the vine. And every now and then, you've got roots coming off. And those roots will swell, especially where you actually did the planting right there. And you'll have some sweet potatoes growing. Okay? Now and then you'll see some flowers on sweet potato vines. No, we're not going to worry about the flowers today. Now this green right here, the leaves and everything need nitrogen. Okay? Fruit and beans, those need phosphate. Let's go ahead and put nitrogen here. The roots need potassium. K because that's the scientific chemical ID of it. So anyway, we're going to put potassium here. So when you want to grow fruit above the ground, you're definitely going to need a lot of phosphate. If you want a leafy green, such as spinach or lettuce, you're going to need a lot of nitrogen. Now, all plants are going to need nitrogen in order to start a good plant. Even your sweet potato vines are going to need nitrogen to start with. Now, when you look at nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium, color-coded here, we're seeing that we need a lot of potassium, but roots will also benefit from phosphate. We don't need a lot of lush vines going on here. So if a soil is too rich in nitrogen for sweet potatoes, you're going to get a lot of vines up here, and you're going to be lacking in the balance of phosphate and potassium. But wait, it doesn't stop there. You need a pH of 6 to 6.5. I have soil that stays around 7.2 unless I add sulfur. So you'll see me adding sulfur in the form of pellets and also powder. Now, if your pH is 6 or below, you might want to bring it up a bit with some lime. Don't make the mistake of automatically putting one or the other in your soil. Get your soil tested. It's actually a pretty cheap thing to do, especially if you can go through your local agriculture center or maybe try your local university that has an agriculture college. The next thing you're going to need is magnesium. Magnesium is great for strong stems here, but also for roots. Magnesium is easy to get. You go to the store and you buy Epsom salts. Be careful that you do not overdo it. You're also going to need calcium. The best source for a balanced calcium is bone meal. Bone meal is going to give you some magnesium, I believe, and some other nutrients that's really good for root development. So I did notice that the successful growers who have been teaching people like me and you how to grow sweet potatoes, I noticed that they had really lush vines. And yes, they're correct to say their soil was too rich, but it's really because it wasn't the right balance for sweet potatoes. If I was growing corn, which needs a really strong stalk and really healthy leaves, then I'm going to be sure that that corn has a lot of nitrogen. Now, if I was growing tomatoes, I would concentrate more on the phosphate and potassium, and I just happen to know that tomatoes also need magnesium and calcium. So I hope this has helped explain what you need to do for your soil if you want a good crop of sweet potatoes. If you want to start your slips right now, be sure to watch the next video and be sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up.